Thank you for joining the first of our escape plans by Global Escapes. I am Tiffany Hines, President and CEO, and our goal with these events is to provide information and inspiration. This has no doubt been an extremely tough year for all of us. Learning how to live through a pandemic, stay healthy, and stay sane. So if you're feeling the way we are ready to start thinking ahead to 2021 and beyond. And our hope is that this will give you some ideas of some amazing places to visit. We know that the constantly changing travel restrictions can be very frustrating and overwhelming. So Global Escapes provides stress-free travel planning based on the latest information worldwide. Having a vacation date on your calendar will bring back some optimism and hope, something that I know we all are in need of right now. So a couple of housekeeping items. We are streaming live on Facebook, and we are also recording this session. So if you have to pop out early, you can always go back and catch this on our YouTube channel. And all attendees are in listen-only mode. If you have any questions, please use the chat feature. And then at the end, we will kind of go back through the chat, make sure we try and get all of the questions answered. But of course, if you have any further questions after our chat with Drew today, please feel free to reach out to us directly. That's what we're here for. We want to continue to help people begin to get back out there. So today we welcome Drew Bigda with the resort at Paws Up. Thank you, Drew, for joining us today. Drew has been with the resort at Paws Up for 10 years now, and I'm going to turn it over to him and let him tell you a little bit more about himself and the resort.
Cool. Yeah, Tiffany, thank you, for having me, and to everybody. I can't see any of you, but thank you for joining. A very brief history of my time at Paws Up. I am currently the Chief Business Development Officer, which is a totally fabricated title that I made up for myself after 10 years at the resort. The sort of simple terms, my job is to sort of spread the love at Paws Up, create on-property events, in-market events. I started out as a sales manager a long time ago, and have sort of shifted gears to kind of a million different ventures. But I think at the end of the day, and most importantly for what we're doing today, is that I sort of live and breathe the resort. I've seen it kind of from its infancy become what it is today. I've seen it just develop into, in my obviously very biased opinion, one of the more incredible places on earth. Tiffany and I chatted a little bit yesterday, and I think that, especially in the unbridled chaos that we've seen unfold in the past 7 months, I think there's been a really cool recognition and sort of light bulb that's gone on in a lot of people's heads that have said, my God, there are these incredible places in our backyards. And while I am very admittedly a travel junkie and love being on a catamaran in Greece just as much as the next guy, I think that people are recognizing that these just hidden gems, and it's truthfully, full disclosure, not just Paws Up, but the great American West and places, Wyoming, Idaho, Montana, that people are seeing and they're saying, my God, this is right here. Why have we not paid more attention to this? And in a time of domestic travel and safe travel and easy travel, we've seen a really incredible insurgence and a lot of new clients that maybe didn't consider coming to Paws Up in the past. So we are in a really unique place to share. It's luxury, but it's not pretentious. It's still a ranch. It's a 37,000 acres of just kind of untouched. And I'm going to share some pictures. I told Tiffany that my presentations in general err on the side of keeping it loose and fun. And I think, given maybe especially this week, we could all use an opportunity to just pretend we're somewhere else for a couple minutes. So I'm going to share my screen here, Tiffany, if that's okay with you. Cool. So I will, I promise I will just kind of zoom through this. If you guys can just let me know if this works.
Perfect.
So yeah, so I think first and foremost, as we enter into this new world, it's important that people know where we are. We are about 45 minutes northeast of Missoula. From a lot of places, there are some really nice direct flights. Once you get to Missoula, the beauty of it is we're only a 35, 40-minute drive, really beautiful drive, and you're on property. So yeah, you're accessible from a lot of major cities, but once you get to the resort, you really do feel like you are really in the middle of nowhere. We've sort of dubbed ourselves very cheekily our own private national park. We have 10 miles of the Blackfoot River, 37,000 acres. These are, I promise, real photos. This is what it actually looks like. Just one of the more stunning places, again, in my very biased opinion, that you'll find yourself. That's the Blackfoot River there. Anybody fans of A River Runs Through It, that is where the movie was filmed. Whoops, let's see here. There we go. I mean, if that isn't like the Americana Western image that everyone thinks of. We have about 250 horses on property. We just started raising a herd of buffalo and bison. This picture I love just because I think Paws Up has sort of been, by our own default, because any marketing we do is a picture of a tent in the middle of summer, become a very summer destination. Winter at Paws Up is honestly one of the more magical places you can be. I always tell people it feels a little bit like Narnia out there with big open spaces covered in snow. The fall is beautiful, beautiful. And just to kind of zip through some shots here, you start to see just the expansiveness of it, which obviously in the current times, big open spaces, lots of room, super, super important. We joke around that we've sort of been socially distancing for the last 15 years and have presented an opportunity to provide our clients the chance to come up and not feel like you're on top of each other. You're not leaving Atlanta or LA or Chicago to be on top of your neighbor. And so this really presents an opportunity to spread out and get cozy. Two types of accommodations. We have the big, beautiful homes on property, just some nice shots of the interiors, big open living rooms, 1 bedroom to 4 bedrooms. So great for couples, great for girlfriends trips, guys getaways, honeymooners. I mean, we always get the $1 million question, what is sort of the ideal guest for us? And honestly, I've seen it all. I've seen them all have amazing time. So I never like to pigeonhole it into one demographic. I think that Paws Up by default just lends itself to anybody that wants to come and have a little bit of an adventure and still have, as you can see, the luxury angle of it. We use the word luxury. I think it's kind of like a Four Seasons meets the Wild West kind of vibe, because at the end of the day, you're in the middle of Montana. We've plopped ourselves in the middle of the woods. So you hear the river, you might hear some animals. There are cows running around, there are horses all over the place. So you do have this very authentic feel, which I think is it's the whole reason that folks come to Montana. So the tents, 36 of these big, beautiful tents on property, 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms. So again, great for families, great for couples, great for honeymooners, larger families. It's really, once you start to see the interior of these things, it'll knock your socks off, because they really are, again, a very loose interpretation of camping. Maybe not the tent that we were all used to growing up. Copper tub at the foot of the bed, heated slate floors in the bathrooms, just some nice shots of the bedrooms. I sort of like to say it's a Montana chic sort of vibe. Patios on all the tents. These are the bathrooms. So this is really, really where we sort of jump the shark. Heated slate floors, copper fixtures, rain showers, jacuzzi tubs in some of them, heated towel racks. So again, camping or glamping is actually, we like to take maybe most of the credit for coming up with that word. It was actually our PR firm 12 years ago that came up with the word, and now is just going crazy. Again, I know Tiffany mentioned it. If people have questions, I'm happy to go back at some point or ask separately, and we'll get you some pictures of these things. But for the sake of everyone's time, I don't want to belabor the point too much. Activities, obviously beautiful homes, beautiful tents. I do think the activities is what differentiates Paws Up from sort of the rest of these ranch resort properties, simply because of the breadth of what we offer. In the summertime, we have close to 60 different activities that we offer. In the wintertime, we have about 40, just because a lot of the river activities go away because it is freezing. But just I'll zip through these. Obviously, some of the best fly fishing in the world. Our equestrian program is insane. Cattle drives, free rides, roping exhibitions, sporting clays, ATVs. Obviously, some of the best rafting out there. 190 foot rappelling rock. This is where it gets kind of crazy. Ropes courses, go-kart tracks. Whoops. We have, of course, God forbid, we don't have our own hot air balloon, canoe trips. This is super, super cool. We actually last year bought this island. As you'll start to see, Paws Up, we do everything sort of in grandiose fashion. We purchased this island. There is a 10-bedroom currently lodge on it. Right now, it just acts as our lake house. If you took a snapshot of this in the summer, there would be families, campfires, grills, jet skis, speedboats. We just bought a Malibu wake setter. So for folks that want to do wake surfing, wakeboarding, all that good stuff. And actually in 2022, that lodge there is actually going to become an accommodation, a 8-bedroom, 8 master suites, overnight accommodation where folks can stay on the island. As if we don't have enough to do, we'll be opening that in 2022. So I know if I started sweating when I talked about it, it's because 2022 seems very close, but we're going to do it. Of course, winter, a whole new slew of activities, snowmobiling, dog sledding, our equestrian programs in full swing. The horses just, build up the big coats and do these big, beautiful rides through the snow. This is one of our, I always say the cattle drive on one end in the summertime is a don't miss opportunity. If you do end up coming and visiting us in the wintertime, Skajoring is an actual sport invented by some potentially inebriated cowboys in Montana long ago. And you quite literally get pulled. This makes it look very docile, but you are flying through the snow, holding onto a tow rope, collecting rings with your arm. So if you do have the chance, this to me is like that sort of differentiator activity that you just don't see anywhere else. So Skajoring's up there at the top of the list. We do have this insane 76,000 square foot private equestrian center. So private rides, barrel racing. We've had clients that we've taught to do mounted shooting, just a slew of really cool things that go on in there. Of course, we have a spa, 7 of these individual treatment tents set around this gorgeous meadow. This is where you start to see that, or continue to see, I should say, that we've just covered every base under the sun, yoga studio. The seasons, I obviously talked about a little bit about sort of each season on its own is beautiful in its own regard. 3 years ago, we opened up as a year-round resort, so we are open year-round. And honestly, you can't go wrong. Winter, spring, fall, summer. Everyone has their own preference. To me, summer or September, October is my personal favorite time to be there. Some people love the winter, some people love the spring. So it really does lend itself just to year-round. It's an amazing place to be. Thanksgiving, obviously gorgeous. I mean, this picture kind of, I think, summarizes winter time there. Just a magical place to be. We deck out the property. We do still have a little bit of Christmas availability in case anyone's curious, but it's going fast. Because I think people are finally realizing that, my God, it's almost October and we should figure out what we're doing in December. But it's a stunning, stunning place to be. And then really quickly, I won't go into it too much, but the culinary world of Paws Up. I think a lot of times people come to Paws Up and they think it's going to be burgers and wraps and pizzas, which we certainly do have. We also have an executive chef who was trained at the French Laundry. So he obviously has taken this really, really cool, everyone uses farm to table way too much in my opinion, but we have this very cool ranch to table. We just got our buffalo and our bison. We're working to get certified non-GMO, organic, so we can serve our own beef. We work with a colony of Hutterites that bring down their local produce, local cheeses. So everything we do is just really curated, local when possible. Just a really incredible food menu. And so I do think it's really cool because obviously we have the burgers, wraps, pizzas for the families. But if you want a 5-course tasting menu with a sommelier to pair everything, we can really master both levels. And I think that, on a 5-6 night trip, doing a really fancy dinner one night is really great. And then kind of a little bit more accessible, kind of mellow vibe the rest of the time. We don't want people to feel like it's too pretentious. I'm going to end on that picture because tomahawk steaks, huckleberry pancakes are probably maybe just because I like to eat my two favorite things on property. But that really, obviously I flew through it, so you didn't have to listen to me jib jab for 20 minutes, but we have everything. And I think that is what is really cool about the resort, is that, the owners, bless their souls. I mean, they've just, every time we have some new idea, they take it, take glamping, for example, started with 3 tents. And we just saw this insane demand, an opportunity to do something special. And, 2 years later, we had 12 tents. And then 5 years later, we had 24 tents. And, now we have 36. And each year we do them in different locations and different, sort of setups and, different amenities. And so it's a moving target, which I think makes it really exciting for me, because after 10 years, I still have brand new things, to talk about at every turn. So.
Well, in the travel industry, we all know what it's like to have to constantly evolve. So I can certainly appreciate that. But that's what makes it new and fresh. So
yeah,
the pictures are amazing. And, I think I mentioned to you yesterday, you guys are probably getting some of the benefit from the new, I guess it's not too new, the series Yellowstone. I think that has really brought to light a lot of us, especially on the East Coast, these places, like you said, out west, that really are just the vast open spaces that we sometimes forget about, that we have in our own backyard. I say in our own backyard, but in our own country.
Yeah, I mean, well, we were talking about it yesterday, and what's really funny, I actually meant to tell you this yesterday. I do think that, and obviously Yellowstone, I mean, the film sort of setting is incredible, and I meant to tell you this. We are in talks for them to potentially film some of their stuff here at Paws Up next year. But I just think there's this really cool thing that has happened, and it is, you see those shots, those big sort of panoramic, shots of what this, Montana is half the size of California, and last year they just got their 1 millionth resident.
Wow.
So I mean, it is not a joke, and we laugh because the building codes and things of that nature in Montana are so strict, and we always say that it's because they want you to come visit and then they want you to go home. Because it's maintained this pristine nature, and we sit on 37,000 acres, which when I started at Paws Up, I was like, that means nothing to me. But if you think about it, it's a 60 square mile rectangle of land that we have, and only Paws Up guests have access to it. We don't allow outside folks. We don't allow people to hunt. We don't allow people to ride. So I mean, you come up and to sort of just speak to kind of the COVID friendliness or COVID responsibility. Nothing's friendly about COVID. That we have is, even when we are slammed, packed to the gills, 210, 220 guests on property, I walk around, I'm like, where is everybody? Because, you have 100 people on activities, you have 20 people having lunch at this little offshoot, you have 30 people shopping, and, it just never feels full. And I think that, in the past, it was cool just because that's why people are coming to Montana. But, in the days of social distancing and just generally being responsible for, the safety of our guests and the safety of our staff, very, very equally importantly, it's just the perfect place to be. I mean, I've been up there a bunch of times this summer, and, I sort of wondered and kind of bopped around. And when I'm with guests, you realize, like, there's just no feeling of not being safe. There's no feeling of not, sort of feeling as though you're risking anything. And it's just a responsibility, I think, that has been really cool to see in guests to feel comfortable and just kind of like unwind and watch that weight kind of like fall from their shoulders.
And I think that's so important right now. So it sounds like from what you're saying, there's not really probably much at the resort that has changed since COVID has started. I mean, tell me, are there any restrictions? Are there any things that you guys have had to kind of tweak or change or modify a little bit? And how does that, translate into the guest experience?
Yeah, so we really, just to be safe and just to be responsible, kind of from the get-go, we have a really close relationship with the governor of Montana. And so out of the gates, we really just sort of said, listen, you tell us, like, we'll go above and beyond. If it's masks, if it's social distancing, before that was put into mandate, we tried really to stay ahead of the curve and, very transparently, because we couldn't afford for people on property to get sick. And so, when this whole thing started, we said, listen, we'll follow your lead. And so we were truthfully on the front end. And again, like, I wish it, was this big heroic effort by us to do it. But the reality is that we're built for social distancing.
Right.
You look at the area where people eat, and we have these dining pavilions that are set up, they're 20, 25 feet from one another. Lunch is, picnic tables over an acre and a half of land where, you're just spread out. And our restaurant, our camps, the main restaurant is set to seat 140, and at any given night, 60 to 80 people are even going to eat in there. So it's just been very easy to do. The one thing that we have done that I thought was really cool is generally we provide private chauffeur, bell stand transportation throughout your experience. And midsummer last year, we signed this really amazing deal with Lexus. And so if clients were staying in the homes, they got their own Lexus, which was fantastic. And we recognized very early on, the one touch point that people were a little bit uncomfortable with was jumping into a car with a random bellman. And so we said, listen, why don't we eliminate that? We reached out to Lexus. They blessed their hearts. If anyone knows anyone from Lexus, thank them for us. We have 1,000 times. They sent us 50 Lexuses to basically give to each guest and their family to drive themselves around. So they just never had to feel like, obviously we'll offer bell stand transportation if people want it. But doing that, I think, was one of those moments where you're like, Lexus cares, we care, the client saw it and they were like, oh my God, this is incredible. Like, we don't have to have that uncomfortable moment where we get into a car and we're like, we don't know this guy, he doesn't know us, masks, no masks, how are we in here, are there gonna be other people? And so it just nipped it in the bud, and we've kind of taken that stance with everything. Activities, we've more or less privatized them. You're not gonna be in a raft with strangers. Again though, when you're on a trail ride, you're socially distant. I told you not to bark. The joys of Zoom calls. We sort of very organically have just been able to go about our business with a little added consciousness. And, our staff wears masks inside, things like that. There's hand sanitizer everywhere. We're double cleaning houses at turn down service, things like that. But, I think it's really cool that you go on property and there's a consciousness that obviously we're in the middle of what we're dealing with. But there's also a feeling of like, this is the place to be. This is where you want to be to feel safe and feel comfortable and have a really amazing vacation where you're not compromising too much because of, the regulations and things that, we have to and very much should be paying attention to.
Right. Well, and just like you said, I mean, it's so important for people to get away and out of, so many people have been kind of sheltering in place for almost 6 months now. And that's why we really wanted to start this series of really beginning to inspire folks. These are some great places within the United States.
Oh my God, yeah.
And really have, return to center, I always say, or, just relax. We all need to kind of, like you said, let some of that stress go. So, well, tell me this, what's the weather like out there right now?
We are in a little bit of a chilly snap of weather. Montana in the fall, or Montana in general. I always say, if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. We had a culinary weekend this weekend that was 75, 75, and 42. Yeah. So luckily the 42 was on departure day. So everyone waved a fond goodbye to the cold and went back to wherever they were. But the leaves are starting to change. This time of year, it's like, high 60s, mid low 60s, high 50s during the day. And it'll cool off at night into the 30s. But, that's the time you sit around the fire, throw a bunch of wood on the fire and really enjoy it. The beauty of Montana, I think, and where we sit, we're at about 4,200 feet elevation, so we're technically a high desert. The beauty of it is, even in the summertime, when it does get pretty toasty, it'll be 85, 90 during the day. And then once the sun goes down, it'll dip down into like the 50s, high 40s. So, at night for campfires, for s'mores, not to be too cheesy, it's a pretty magical setting to spend your time in. And I think that it sort of self-regulates. We don't have any bugs. We don't have to deal with that because it does get cold enough a lot of the season. And we don't have any standing water because it's all the river. I think it's a dream of when these owners found this property 15 years ago, they stumbled upon, in my opinion, one of like the more incredible, we're close to the airport. We have the river, we have mountains, we have lakes, we have prairies. It's just the topography of what we've plopped ourselves on is, I always say this, and this goes back to the Yellowstone thing. Montana does the heavy lifting. We've just kind of built some cool stuff for people to enjoy, but Montana's the star of the show for sure.
Yes, absolutely. The scenery is just absolutely amazing. Well, one of the questions, Drew, that we've been getting a lot in the last couple of months from people has to do with flexibility. Obviously that's a concern for people, resorts and airlines and, a lot of our partners in the travel industry, how they're modifying their policies to try to be flexible. So tell me a little bit about how that maybe has changed or what that looks like for you guys.
Yeah, so it's it's a slightly loaded question only because we have taken, we are fortuitous in that we don't deal in mass. So we don't have 10 million reservations, right? Like we're a pretty small property. Our reservations and booking process is very intimate. It's long. It's a bunch of conversations, as anyone that has booked Paws Up knows. What we have done is we have stuck with our normal cancellation policy, just kind of at the base level. But we have been very transparent and very accommodating that and it happened a lot, if and when folks find themselves in a situation that they cannot travel or are concerned about traveling due to COVID, we have gone the route of allowing folks to defer their stays. We've stayed away from the cancellations just because it's what we found is that when we have enough clients and guests and amazing folks that are feeling really confident about traveling and sort of feeling really good about where they're at. And so we want people that really do feel like they are going to come. And we think sometimes that giving a really soft cancellation policy creates sort of like this wishy-washiness that it muddies the waters for everybody, not just us. But knowing that, there is a little bit of a commitment. If and when there is an instance that people don't feel comfortable traveling, we're certainly not going to keep your money and tell you to beat it. We'll find a time in the future for folks to stay, which we have found has created this really nice middle ground. I'll be honest, like even when things were spiking or doing this, we didn't have a lot of, knock on wood. We had a handful of deferments, but for the most part, I think people recognized that this was probably safer than anywhere they could be. Obviously traveling and flying is something that people are getting back into and getting comfortable with again. I've flown a bunch in the last couple months, and I think it's the most pleasant traveling experience ever because no one's bustling onto the plane or jumping up and standing up when the bell rings to get off, and it's created a really comfortable flying experience. Plus no one's in your middle seat, which is always nice. And so, so we've taken it on a little bit of a case by case basis. We are super hyper sensitive to the times and to the fact that, we want people to feel comfortable in everything that we do. And we'll work with you to make sure that is the case, down to every individual booking.
I think that's all very reasonable. Like you said, if people, make plans to come, I would venture to guess that most people ultimately really want to get there. I think just knowing that they've got some flexibility to reschedule at something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, well, I'm going to look and see if we have any questions in our chat. It looks like Molly and Christine have done a great job of answering questions so far. Drew, thank you so much for whetting our appetite on Montana. I am definitely ready to get on a plane and come visit for sure.
Let's do it.
Thanks to all of our listeners that tuned in today. And if you have additional questions, please reach out to us. We want you to think of Global Escapes as your trusted resource in this journey to getting back out and exploring the world. Next week, October 8th at 11:30, we will be talking to our friends over in Charleston, South Carolina, and find out what's going on there. And then after that, we will be heading down to the Caribbean islands. So keep an eye on our Facebook feed and our website for those events. And thanks again for tuning in. Thank you, Drew. We appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. It's good to see everybody. And if anybody ever needs anything, let me know.
We definitely will. We appreciate it. You guys take care. All right. Bye-bye.